I'm Paul Lambis, and welcome to Culturescope, featured on Cyprus Mail's new interactive web portal Good Living. Our location for this episode is CyHerbia Botanical Park in Avgorou village, a wonderful place to visit for a fun day out for the whole family. The park features themed organic herb gardens, a forest planted in the shape of the island, and the only hedge maze in Cyprus featuring 600 meters of twisting paths. Both peaceful and very aromatic, this unique park is a herbal oasis. CyHerbia Botanical Park and Labyrinth is a family-run business established in 2012. What was the vision and motivation behind this unique concept?
We'd used herbs for our health and well-being in our family, and we realized the healing power of the herbs of Cyprus, how fantastic they are to really keep you healthy, but also to heal common ailments that modern medicine only makes worse. We've seen that in our own family. So we said we have to bring people back to the old ways of turning to nature first for their health. I became a herbalist later, after we took this vision seriously and we started creating the park. The park took 8 years to create. After 8 years, we opened the gates to the first visitors.
CyHerbia welcomes locals, tourists and schools to come for a fun and educational trip at the park. Can you tell us about the events and workshops organized at the park?
So when visitors come to the park, they can learn about the nature of Cyprus, about the healing properties of herbs through an educational program that we give to children, where they discover by themselves with their parents as they go along in the herb garden. So they are actively participating in the learning process, which is far more effective than me talking at them, where they may pick up maybe 20% of what I say, but when they discover it for themselves and then they write it down and they retain the information. Plus, it's a lot of fun because it is like a treasure hunt. In the maze, we raise awareness on bird protection, because we've hidden 7 protected bird species of Cyprus in the maze. So we raise awareness on the importance of protecting our birds. In the woodland area, they can see the fairy village and enter a world of imagination. Without imagination, there's no genius. You have to stimulate a child's imagination. And when families spend their day here, they enter a different world. They already feel it as they walk along the path and they see this is a different place. Most workshops are both for adults and kids. Some other workshops are only for adults. We do yoga meditation here. There's such a variety of workshops. The main kids events that we do 4 big festivals a year. A lot of kids have never had this experience with nature. I've never touched an insect before, or a caterpillar like that, especially the ones that we breed here. They're very striking in color. It's a unique experience for a child. That really is, I could say, the crown on my work, when I can inspire children to fall in love with nature and to take the baton later in conservation, in protection, and all these things. That's very, very important to me.
With a title and a premise both highly fitting in times of Corona, A Woman Alone has a powerful message which concerns a woman finding the courage to free herself from imprisonment in her own life. Catherine, your adaptation has been described as a theatre hybrid made during the lockdown. How did the entire idea originate?
We wanted to have a project together before we went into lockdown, and then suddenly we were all kind of isolated, contained, and so the process of beginning A Woman Alone came out of saying, what can we do? Instead of saying, oh no, it's all come to an end. It's 6 women who we've tried to assimilate on one kind of equilibrium, but of course we're not the same. And one woman's way of playing Sharon, our character, is very different from another's, and in that way people who are suffering abuse, difficulties at home in their marriage. It doesn't even have to be abuse, but each woman, each one of us will touch the audience in a different way.
I think Sharon does embody all aspects of abuse. She is not only physically abused by her husband, but she's emotionally abused by all those around her who she's in contact with.
The play bears the signature of two of Italy's best-known political activists who had the courage to assume their beliefs and commitment to political and social issues. How important is the power or the right to express one's opinions without restraint?
Power and right, two very different things. Right is something that we seem to think others give us. Power is something we give ourselves. It's very important to have the power and to fight for the right. I think we should never be restrained, but we should restrain ourselves a little bit. So I have a very different opinion about a subject or a topic than you do. I should restrain myself by speaking to you or with you with respect. And I think that's where theatre and the arts in general is very strong. In 2020, she still reflects a huge majority of the female population in the world, but we don't have to expose them or make them feel weak or vulnerable. We just need to engage them in conversation. And so that's where I think the beauty of the arts, it gives that restraint, but not by restraining us.
I can't take it anymore. It's too much. I just stabbed him with a spoon. What am I going to do?
Can you believe how many erogenous zones we have? You know, I saw this picture once in a magazine of a woman, and she was all cut up into four like this, you know. Like one of those posters you see in the butcher shop, you know, of the cow cut up into joint. Yeah, it's like a map, that's it.
Oh my God, love! I've gone and poured baby's boiling mush into his eyes! I mean, you should have seen it. There they were, getting on with the housework, minding their own business, and suddenly, there's his hand.
He says, I only do it because I love you.
Theatre is a sophisticated expression of a basic human need. One might call it an instinct to mimic or project stories onto ourselves and others, and also to create meaning through narrative and metaphor. What has acting taught you?
I initially joined Catherine's class over a year ago to gain confidence in public speaking. And doing this for over a year, I feel I can now go on stage to anywhere between 100 to 3,000 people and speak to them and influence them to create change in their world.
Acting for me is totally new. It's nothing I didn't even do it at school, you know, it was absolutely new. There was, I think it probably maybe close to 2 years in the improv class with Catherine. And as Kelly said, you know, the development of confidence as you go along. And for me, it was such an outlet once a week. Just drop all the other masks that we have, right? Whether it be mother, work, wife, whatever it be. So drop all that mask and just be yourself.
This production has amazing talents essential to the success of the production. What inspired you to collaborate with Catherine on A Woman Alone?
In the self-isolation period, I listened a lot Russian poems about love, soul, pains, time, what is values. Like Greek poems, we are very similar, you know, our poems are very strong. And ideas start to grow up in my heart. So I make a first image, I send it to Catherine. I knew she wasn't sure about what I sent her because she has different idea about what she wants me to do, but she loved it. And she said, I love your style.
To be able to do this premiere in aid of St. George's Home for these special needs young adults and kids is the cherry on the cake, it really is, and it feels good to give back.
It's going to be an amazing event at the Paredes Museum on the 24th and 25th of July. It opens at 7:30 and there'll be an exhibition from local artists of Larnaca. We hope that people will come, sit, enjoy, but the most important part of it is to actually mingle, talk and express ideas about this very unique hybrid theatre movie performance that was made during COVID-19.
Andreas Vardas is one of Cyprus's leading and award-winning architects, renowned for his unique eco-friendly approach closely tied to aesthetic and functionality. Combining clean lines, a refined material palette, and architectural profiles that are tied to iconic geometry, Andreas aims to transform Cyprus's builtscape, but also to change people's lives. Andreas, your design studio focuses on a clear architectural response to the site and the client's brief and simplicity in form. What other factors do you need to consider before putting pen to paper?
A good architect is like a chef. You need to find ingredients from your own environment. Then you can cook well. It's the same thing with architecture. I think my architecture, even if it doesn't look a lot of times similar to the other things here, they're responding to this. They're responding to the nature, they're responding to the climatic conditions. And when you do this, the form is simple.
Your designs have garnered multiple awards, including the Cyprus Presidential Award. Can you tell us about the projects that contributed to your success?
I cannot name projects. I mean, if you ask me, I think only I did 3 projects. Good. My heroes are people like Picasso and Mick Jagger. Picasso never stopped working. You always work, you always learn, and you're always moving. And sometimes things are better, some things are worse, but you keep moving. And Mick Jagger said the most important album is not the first, it's the third. I think that every project we do has a continuation. We're coming back, we learn what we did maybe wrong, we're moving on, but it's to keep working. And I always say to the young artists, keep doing it.
Today, new homes in Cyprus are being built reinterpreting past building methods and construction techniques. Recognizing the past while looking to the future, your home is an exhibition of modernity and opens up the living spaces beyond the interior of the house while embracing the local climate. What was the concept of this work of art?
Our house, it's a reflection because me and my wife, we are both architects. The drainage pipe cylinders was probably influenced me. I used to see them in the fields, and I thought, what an amazing structures. So we wanted to do a filtering, a glass house with filtering, and we thought, let's do it like that. And as my wife jokes, she says, always say, I make his ideas work. In the interior, as you can see here, we kept it on the minimum because our life nowadays is so busy. So when we come home, we want to have this simplicity in lifestyle. Architecture is about the people they're going to experience the space, and this is very important. In art, is 2 things, the object and the viewer. In architecture, is 3. Is the object, is the viewer, and is the user. So if you don't live well in your environment, it means it's not a good architecture. The biggest compliment for me was one client called us after we did the house after a month. They said, I slept very good. So that's a big compliment.
On the outskirts of Cyprus's capital city, in the area of Alykos, one will discover a unique landscape unlike any other on the island. Stretching for miles, this intriguingly beautiful area centers around a large pyramid-shaped hill and the anecdotal nature of a story that lends an air of authenticity to those who believe it. Known as Vonitis Arkas, or the heel of the old lady, the so-called pyramid is a result of the natural deposition of clay by still or slow-moving water dating back thousands of years. Tradition, however, states that it was a pile of wheat that belonged to a stingy old woman. According to the legend, Jesus Christ passed by the area and asked the old lady for some wheat, but she refused. Her actions infuriated the Lord, and he transformed the wheat into soil. Cyprus is one of the few places on Earth where the geological processes have played such an important role in the development of its natural environment. The birth of the island was the result of a series of unique and complicated geological events which make Cyprus an international geological showcase. On Wilder Seas is your debut novel released in the United Kingdom. It's inspired by the true story of Maria, the woman who sailed the Golden Hind during Francis Drake's famous circumnavigation voyage. It's the tale of one woman's quest for freedom. Where did the inspiration for the book come from?
Well, I'm reading a popular history book about Elizabethan England, and there was a section on Francis Drake's circumnavigation voyage. He sailed around the world 1577 to 1580. And as a throwaway line, it mentioned this woman. She was an African woman. Drake had raided the ship she was on. She was on a Spanish merchant ship. And as Francis Drake was sailing up the Pacific coast of America, he raided this ship and he took treasure, he took food, and he also took this woman, Maria. And she stayed on board for 8 months, so she was on the Golden Hind for 8 months. She was there when Drake explored North America. She was there when Drake set up a colony in North America called Nova Albion. And she was there when he crossed the Pacific Ocean. But then she was abandoned on a desert island in Indonesia when she was heavily pregnant. So this was sort of mentioned in passing in this history book that I was reading, but I found that the bare facts of that situation so horrifying that I wanted to go away and find out as much as I could about her. So I kept going, and sort of the more I read about women who lived lives like Maria's, the more the sort of book expanded and grew. So that's kind of where it came from. It's very rare to find women's voices in history, and so they are very often presented as men see them. And in Maria's case, that was very, very stark. She is described in the records as a proper Negro wench, she's called. And it's very hard to see her as a real person, to imagine, the motivations she had. But of course she did. So I think it's very important to tell women's stories. I think women still have some experiences that are very different to men. And until we achieve equality, I think it's still very important to tell the unique experiences that women have in this world. And
absolutely,
we want to understand why they're important.
You were born in the United Kingdom, but you've got strong connections to Cyprus. Tell us more about your Greek Cypriot ancestry.
Yes, so my grandparents are both from Paphos, and they came to England just before the war. They returned to Cyprus in the 70s, so I have very happy childhood memories of visiting, and I still have lots of family there in Cyprus who we love visiting, and I still feel a real affinity for Cyprus.
Could you tell our viewers how they can get a copy of the book at the moment?
Yes, it's available in English language bookshops in Cyprus. You can order from sort of the usual online outlets in Cyprus. There's no Greek language edition yet. Maybe that's something that will come later. But yes, at the moment, the usual English language outlets should be able to order a copy in.
Ennio Morricone's innovative and influential scores revolutionized the music of the film industry. He became famous for scoring the so-called spaghetti westerns directed by his friend Sergio Leone, such as A Fistful of Dollars and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which helped define a cinematic era. Until the 1960s, film scores were unassuming. However, Morricone changed that, and, unusually for a composer, he became a star. His desire to maintain a European bulwark against a dominant US film culture was also important to him. He even opted for handwritten scores over the newly modernized forms of computer scoring. His His score for The Mission was described as so moving that, rather than complementing the film, it overwhelmed it. Morricone's work was seen as influential in bringing a certain popular style to the classical sound. He used period jazz phrases in his score for Once Upon a Time in America to set the right historical context. A no-nonsense professional, Morricone left a legacy of compositions that convey a timeless aura. In 2007, he was belatedly, according to his many fans, awarded an honorary Academy Award, only the second film score composer to receive such an accolade. Morricone's desire to reflect parts of his personality throughout his carefully produced compositions enhanced and transformed the emotional impact of the films, and he successfully adapted his work to many different styles of cinema. He never bothered to learn English despite his prominent presence in Hollywood, and never lost touch with his Italian roots, remaining in Rome for most of his life. Ennio Morricone went on to become one of the most prolific composers of his era, with hundreds of film scores in his repertoire. Stay connected and follow us on social media. If you want to be featured on Culturescope, contact our production team on the email provided below. Until next time, stay safe and let culture transform your life.